So I've been seeing some videos lately from people who've struggled with mental health issues like maybe anxiety, depression, and felt like God just miraculously healed them overnight. And that's amazing. We need to tell those stories because God can do that and God does do that. However, the problem is when those are the only stories we're hearing. And I feel like there's not enough stories about people who have struggled through mental health issues and have seen God working in the midst of it. And so today I want to share a different kind of story. I want to share my own story, my own struggle through anxiety and depression, and how God did not just miraculously set me free, and yet I've learned so much and seen Him at work so much through the slow process of working through those things. Hey friends, Tiffany Dawn here, and if you're new to this channel, my heart is that you would have healthy relationships with yourself, with God, and with the people you date. That way you can feel secure. So if you want to see more videos like this, you can hit that subscribe button and join us every Tuesday. So today I want to share my own story of journeying through anxiety and depression. But the big thing I want you to take away is that God was at work in the slow process. Because sometimes we get this idea that if we're a really good Christian, that God will set us free instantly from our struggles. And that's just not true. God does what He wants to do in each person's life that's different for everyone. And a lot of times He lets us wrestle through things over time. And that is valid, and it does not mean that you are not trusting God. In fact, sometimes you have to trust Him a whole lot more when the process takes a while than when there's a quick end to it. So, shortly after I got married, almost 4 years ago, I set up an appointment with a new doctor because I really thought I was gonna have a heart attack. I had been having weird, like heart racing, sweating, nauseous, dizzy, like weird symptoms, and I was convinced that one of these days my heart was just gonna like stop working. And so I went to her to see what was wrong with my heart. The other thing I was there for was fatigue. I had been tired my entire life, like since I was probably 11. Even if I get enough sleep, I'm just exhausted. I'm always tired. Like I just would go to doctor after doctor, specialist after specialist, trying to figure out what was causing this constant fatigue, this constant weariness. So I go to this new doctor for the first time. She listens to my stories and she's like, I think you actually have anxiety. And I was like, no, lady, like that's a nice thought, but I don't have anxiety. I have a heart issue. She's like, no, there's nothing wrong with your heart. What's wrong is that you have anxiety. And I think that we need to talk about different treatment options. So I decided to start seeing a counselor for this and just kind of explore the issue. Turns out it's not normal to wake up in the morning every day when your husband leaves for work and have this sense of panic that you're never gonna see him again, that every day you're so afraid when he leaves that you're saying goodbye for the last time. Apparently it's not normal to have this like feature-length movie playing in your mind all the time of like horrible situations gone wrong, and just like you lose yourself in it. It feels real, feels traumatic, and it's just in your head, it's your imagination, but it's constantly going. Apparently that's not normal either. Apparently you're not supposed to live that way. Who knew? If you have a mental health struggle, a lot of times you don't even realize it at first because it just feels like you're normal. It's just how your life has been. You don't realize that that's not how life has to be. So I started seeing a counselor, and counseling literally changed my life. Like I cannot recommend it highly enough. But I still was so tired. I was so weary all the time, just like this bone deep exhaustion constantly. And I'd had so many tests done and throughout the years trying to figure out what was causing this. And finally my doctor was like, everything is normal about your body. Like, this might actually be depression. And around the same time, my counselor said, I think you're struggling with depression. And I was kind of like, no, but I'm really not. Like, I have family members who struggled with depression. Like, it doesn't look the same for me. And I just kind of shrugged it off and was like, that's not a thing, until I had my daughter, Natalie. And I really struggled with postpartum depression. It was overwhelming some days and hard to see outside of it. And that's when I started realizing that I do struggle with some depression, and I have for I think a long time, but I never recognized it because it looked different for me than it did for other people I knew. And so over the past few years, I've been trying to work through and find some healing for these things. I started seeing this counselor, and he just started working with me through like these moments when I'm feeling this anxiety, like what's triggering that, what's causing it, what do I do in those moments, how do I talk myself down. And honestly, seeing him for the past 3 years has changed the way I think. I still struggle with that highlight reel movies in my head. I'm working on that part, but I don't wake up every morning afraid I'm never going to see James again. And it's so freeing. Some days I forget that I even used to think that way. Like, I am so much less anxious than I've ever been in my life. And like, people notice, like my close friends, my family, my husband, like they all notice how much less anxious I am. And through that, God has been teaching me a lot about the slow work of sanctification, that his work and his process in our lives is usually slow. There are times when something happens overnight, but a lot of the time it's slow. That slow work has grown so many fruits of the Spirit in my life. Not to say that fast work can't, but a lot of times it's the slow, hard work that brings the most growth in our lives, that teaches us things like patience and compassion for others, and empathy and vulnerability. These are all things that I've been developing because God did not set me free overnight. He decided to take me on this process. And so I've been learning to celebrate the slow work of God just as much as the fast work of God. If you guys want to hear more about my struggles through anxiety and postpartum depression, I've got some videos for you linked right up there. I'll see you over there. Love you, girls.